Okay, I'd like to open any questions to the audience for our panelists.
As a potential journalist very soon, what would you recommend that us as journalists have in our toolkit to be successful?
I'll answer that one first. Definitely, you have to embrace social media. Now, it's interesting enough, and news directors, which I found very interesting, old school, like you had to call them on the phone. Oh, my God. Yeah, and they never call you back. News directors now set up Twitter accounts so you can talk to them on their Twitter account. If you're thinking about getting a job here, news directors, including ours, they Skype interviews now. And if you do well on the Skype interview, then they fly you in to do the in-house interview. So the line of communication is social media. The first level of interviews, Skype, social media. And then coming in the door, they want to know if you can have your own Twitter page, Facebook page, and your own sub-website on the station website, if you're capable of doing all that, in addition to the work you're doing, because they see how much of an influence social media has had. Again, 4 or 5 years ago, not even an option. So you definitely, if you have that coming in the door, a lot of, we used to, in the olden days, send DVDs out of your work. Now, students and people who are looking for employment have websites, so the news director can go directly to their website and take a look at their packages and take a look at their work there. So students already need to have their website of their work set up, so a news director can get instant access to it. There used to be boxes upon boxes of DVDs in my news director's office of people who want a job, and now you just see up on her eraser board the website, so so-and-so wants a job. All right, let me check out so-and-so from Poughkeepsie, okay, blah, 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 you know. So, yeah, definitely embrace it. It's going to be, check that. It already is a major part of the interviewing process, especially for television. I don't know so much about radio and print, but for television, it's huge. It's huge. So don't be surprised if your first couple of interviews are Skype interviews for the news department you want to go to.
I also want to add, get more schooling. Get a second degree. CSU has a great digital media program, which also allows you to learn about broadcast TV. The standard journalism path is more geared to print and online, but if you add a digital media major, as I have, then you're going to get experience with cameras, both behind and in front of them. So it just opens up. Yeah, and editing as well. And it just opens up a whole nother realm of job opportunities as well.
For me, across any media, I'd say realizing where you're at. Don't think that you're going to come into the game and all of a sudden you're going to be writing a column on the cover of the Plain Dealer. It's just not going to happen. Or thinking that you're going to be the top columnist on some website. It's not going to happen. My only advice is just whatever you're doing, just do it the best you can. Even if it seems at that time, where am I going? There's a ceiling here. I'm not ever going to be any better at I'm never going to better myself. As long as I think if you're doing, it sounds so cliche and even lame, but if you're doing the best you can at what you're doing, that's all you can ask for, and someone's going to notice it along the way. And I think that's the most important. That's what I learned.
The only thing when I hear about Facebook and Convergence and being platform agnostic and everything, those are really all just delivery tools. And I think I taught a class at Kent State, and what I would always tell them is, I think the best thing you can do, no matter what media you're working in, is develop your storytelling skills. I think I'm an old dog. I've been in the business a long time, but I can't tell you how many high school football games I've covered, how many fires I've been to, blah, blah, blah. An old dog like me actually can climb the technological ladder. I can learn Twitter, I can learn Facebook quicker, I think, than someone to gain the experience that someone like, not to date you, not to give you away, but you know, Kenny and I have probably been in the business a long time, you know, and so we can learn the new technology, but I think it's the harder thing to hone is your storytelling skills, and to get out there and get that experience and learn how to deal with the public, learn how to deal with people that might not like you, or and different types of situations. I think that's the most important thing, because everything else I think will fall into place for you after that. I think if you concentrate on being able to tell a story, being able to take storytelling pictures, being able to, you know, tell a story on air and learn those skills, I think that's the most important thing.
And to be able to tell those stories, I think you have to have an innate curiosity. You have to be able to ask smart questions. You have to be a thoughtful and engaged listener so that you can gather the information that you've heard and translate it into meaningful storytelling. So I would say that, you know, I would echo what Dale has said, and said certainly developing skills on the many ways in which you tell stories is important, but I think at its core you still have to have the basic journalism values for a newspaper editor, at least, to be open to hiring you. And so you're going to have some stories in your toolbox that you can present when it comes time to be interviewed. So I would say that, you know, having an internship or two under your belt certainly would be helpful. Doing some freelance writing where you have an opportunity to practice the writing skills that you've developed. Developing relationships, you know, with individuals across the industry who can look at your work and tell you where the holes are or where the opportunities are, I think are all things that will help you. If you have a particular expertise in a specialized subject matter, that certainly can't hurt. You know, we have some people who cover courts, for example, who have a law background. You know, at my previous paper, one of our medical writers had spent some time in medical school and had a degree in public health. So those things all come to bear. I think that you have to bring every skill that you have in your toolkit beyond your journalism skills to really help you be successful as a journalist.
I have a question. As Dan had mentioned, getting another degree, obviously, what most of you have mentioned about being versatile with your skills. For those of us that are about to graduate with journalism degrees, a bachelor's in journalism, would you recommend going on to graduate school right away, or would you say to gain, I know gaining skills is always, you know, being in the industry is always the best experience, but what are your thoughts on graduate school? And would you say that getting a graduate degree in the journalism area is the best choice, or would it be better to maybe expand your knowledge maybe with a business degree or a law degree?
I think we probably don't have a unified response on that question, so I don't necessarily want to be the first person to jump in, but I would say that, you know, getting a second degree doesn't necessarily open the door for you any more than graduating with a bachelor's degree and having an internship in 10 great clips, or having had 2 strong internship seasons. And so I think the question about graduate school really is an individualized answer. It depends on what you focused on, I think, as an undergrad. Did you get the tools that you need to be successful in a sort of professional news environment? If you majored in something that was more liberal arts focused, for example, like politics, and you didn't really spend a lot of time focusing on journalism, then in that instance, a graduate degree might be helpful. But I don't think there is a cookie cutter approach, especially now, to breaking through to get in the door. If the Plain Dealer's new managing editor was here, he would tell you, though, that in spite of everything you've heard, newspapers aren't dead. For the Plain Dealer, we have 250,000 subscribers who get the paper every day, and then on Sunday that number is about 350,000, and that's a greater reach than any other media in the marketplace. And so there's still some vibrancy about the work that we're doing, and I don't think that having a second degree necessarily creates a better path for you. It doesn't hurt, but you know, some might argue that it prolongs it. When I got into the business, people were like, second degree, are you kidding me? You need to, you know, get some clips that you can demonstrate. And most editors, at least at the senior editor level, have come from that old school tradition, I think.
Deborah alluded to it earlier. I don't know, I mean, I just have a bachelor's degree, so full disclosure here, but I will say, if I were advising someone, and you already have a journalism degree, and the way, I think what the web does is kind of like magazines did this years ago, you know, everything has a niche, you know, general interest magazines, you know, started to die off, Life magazine look, and it all became so niche oriented. And I would say if I were to had a journalism degree and I were to get a second degree, it would be in a specific field that I could write about and make, and you know, leverage that, as opposed to, you know, kind of another journalism degree.
My answer would be both of those answers. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions from our audience? Go ahead.
This is primarily towards Deborah, but anyone else is free to jump on and answer. When you're talking about the website, specifically moderating comments, what kind of safeguards does the plain dealer put in place to prevent abuse of power? I understand that, you know, certain things, offensive comments, inaccurate comments, need to be taken down, but it is a form of censorship and could be abused, especially with something that is sensitive, particularly perhaps politics. So what kind of safeguards would the plain dealer put in place to prevent an abuse of power?
If you go on cleveland.com, you notice that there's some fine print in italics that, you know, essentially says this is an open forum, but the advanced internet reserves the right to take down anything that it finds offensive. And so we don't have any formal safeguards in place that's going to sort of force any behavior on the front end, you know, other than that announcement that, you know, we're watching and monitoring. Which is why we have to spend so much time on the back end. What we have is, and this is what most newspapers have, we have a registration process, obviously, and so we can backtrack and identify who commenters are, so if there is a problem, there's some recourse, and you may have heard some about that in the past year. You know, in cases where we have gone in. But there are some people, there aren't a lot of safeguards. For example, there are people who, you get a couple of chances, and if you continue to abuse the site, then your registration is canceled and you're sort of shut out. But many of those people just create new web IDs and come back the next day, you know, which makes our work that much more challenging. I mean, it's a constant battle. So what we have are some standardized guidelines and a policy from Advanced Internet that tries to sort of shape that behavior.
Can I just add something to that? I mean, more so from the paper end. How do you know that people who are monitoring this website are not taking down comments due to ideological reasons?
Because we have people who are watching the people who are taking down the comments. But you know, at the end of the day, the comments that are taken down have to be approved. So you have a monitor who's saying this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. It doesn't go away after that. There's another layer that comes in and says, you know, absolutely, absolutely, this one is kind of borderline. And I don't disagree with you. It can be subjective. But generally, the comments that get taken down are so offensive that there isn't a lot of debate about what would be acceptable.